secular story, but it's really not secular because it was the Holy Spirit. How many of you are familiar with the Christmas truce of 1914? Are there any history buffs here? Yes. So the Christmas truce of 1914, there was an epic event that took place. It was on the Western Front of World War I, France or Belgium, and it was freezing cold out. And there was no darker, more violent, desolate place on earth than the World War I battlefields. Right? It was just violent. It was horrible. You're far from home. You're freezing cold. You've been indoctrinated that the soldiers on the other side, if you were an English or French soldier, the Germans were the archenemy, World War I, not World War II. And then if you were a German soldier, well, then the British and the French were the evil. And so all of a sudden Christmas Eve rolls around, the first Christmas Eve. And this is well documented. And all of a sudden, and depending on where, there's all these letters that were sent home, and that's the sources for this, so that you can go out and research it online. And so depending on where you were on the line, there's different letters and different perspectives. And so on many situations, all of a sudden, they're sitting, it's freezing cold, they're thinking of home, they're opening up gifts from home. And all of a sudden, they hear the enemy soldiers singing Christmas carols. In German, Silent Night, and then they would sing back. And it's like, they're human. And something happened. Something happened in the human heart. A warming, an unbelievable, and then all of a sudden they came out of their trenches. Somebody stepped out holding a Christmas tree, holding something, and they were a little wary, and they stepped across this barren no man's land. No man's land was this desolate space between the trenches. And it's a space that exists spiritually in our hearts when we have a broken relationship with someone. There's a no man's land between us and them. And so this no man's land was barbed wire. If you stuck your head up from a trench, you'd be shot. You didn't dare cross this place. It was the most dangerous place on earth. And here they crossed on Christmas Eve and shook hands, exchanged treats, cigarettes, whatever they did. And the letters home on Christmas Day were unbelievable. They said, mother and father, you hardly believe what occurred. They sang us a hymn, we sang one for them. We exchanged handshakes, and it went on the whole day. And they played, soccer together and football, and then eventually they had to go back. And then there were smaller ones in later years. How do you explain that? That was the Holy Spirit. That was the power of this time of year. It didn't happen in March or July, the other terrible months. It happened on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Something moved the human heart. It's the power of this year, the power of the peace and reconciliation of this year. The Holy Spirit was responsible for that. And where did it originate? In the mind and in the heart. Whereas the soldiers they wanted to connect. So their hearts, the human heart, traversed no man's land, an unbelievable barrier, and connected with somebody who was out to kill them. And created this beautiful scene. And there's even photographs of it, that you can easily find online of they took photographs of this German and British soldiers all together and everything. And if they did it, why can't we? But it happened during a certain time of year. There's a window of opportunity here where the human heart is extra receptive and sensitive. And so whether it's our own healing or reaching out, let's make it happen. That there's that barren landscape of no man's land that exists in our hearts if we have brokenness within us, with ourselves or with someone else, and we want to cross it. Okay.
What was the name of that event again?
The World War I Christmas truce of 1914. Actually, I have a letter saved on the phone if you want me to read it. I don't know if that would be appealing to the group. It might drive it home a little bit. Do you want me to read it?
Yeah.
Okay. Just going to test my vision here. This is the print's very small. Okay, here we go. All right. This was in a British newspaper. Christmas truce. British and Germans fraternize. And this was from a regiment, the Stalybridge Territorials. Shake hands with the enemy, who offered gifts. Writing to his parents, Mr. and Mrs. Walter Booth, 53 of Canal Street, Stalybridge. Private J. Booth, a member of the Stalybridge Territorials, now at the front, says, quote, I dare say you will be wondering how I spent Christmas. I was in the trenches on Christmas Eve and also on Christmas Day, And when I tell you what happened on Christmas Day, you will hardly believe me. Round the place where we were entrenched, there was not a shot fired by either us or the Germans. And about 2 o'clock on Christmas Eve in the afternoon, 2 of the Germans were coaxed out of their trenches by the Norfolks, that's a different regiment, and 2 of the Norfolks went out and met them and shook hands with them. And as soon as the 4 met, the Germans came out of the trenches in droves without their rifles, and the English did the same, and we met them about 200 yards from our trenches, and we shook hands with them. Then we sang a Christmas hymn, and they sang one for us, and we handed out cigarettes and gifts. I can tell you it was a scene I shall never forget. It is hardly believable to those who did not see it. I shall always remember Christmas Day as the day when I shook hands with the Germans. And so